Just to give you guys a little behind the scenes real quick, me and Matt have this thing where we start the show before we start the show, right? Like, because this doesn't really feel like a show where we're like trying to entertain people. It's just us talking about Star Wars because we love it. And so we start talking about Kenobi, all these different things that we loved about the episode. And Matt's like, dude, we just hit the live button so we can talk about it on air. So I just find that very, very funny. But I don't want to waste anyone's time, so we're just going to get straight into this. Number one, this is a spoiler discussion of the first 2 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So if you've not seen it by now, please leave this video, give it a like, save it for later, and then come back because we're going to spoil everything, right? Second thing, this is a part 1 of 2 videos that we will be doing tonight. This is going to be all Kenobi, just everything about the first 2 episodes. And we're going to take a little break, grab a snack, have a breather, and then we will come back and do a celebration update between what we saw on Friday and Saturday today.
Which is perfect because we're going to start at 10 right when it ends. So everything will have happened already.
Right. So that's the schedule for the next couple hours. So grab a snack, grab a drink, relax, and you're going to be seeing a lot of us for the next couple hours. This is probably going to push being our longest episodes, probably 2 of our longest episodes thus far on the channel. So should be a lot of fun. But with that, starting now, spoilers. So last chance, get out of here if you've not watched episodes. So we begin with this epic montage of just all the prequel goodness that you can imagine.
It made a grown man cry at 2:30 in the morning.
Right. Which actually, let's go back a second. They ended up airing this episode 3 hours early, which made me very happy because I literally had my alarm set. I was ready to go to bed. And then Star Wars Twitter was like, hey, surprise, it's going to air at 9 p.m., West Coast, midnight, East Coast time. So got to stay up, watch both episodes. So thank you, Lucasfilm and Disney Plus, for allowing us to watch it and not have to worry about spoilers going into tomorrow morning.
Real quick, I want to shout out my mom because I had gone to bed. Like I told you, I was going to bed at 10, and I was in my REM cycles, and next thing you know, my foot's getting smacked. And it's like, that's just midnight, and I'm like, okay, I know I'm gonna wake up at 3 in the morning. And I was like, hey, they dropped it early. I'm like, look, as much as I want to, I know damn well if I go watch this now, I'm not going to be able to go back to bed. So I'm going to get these extra couple hours of sleep.
I know that was a wise choice because I will say going into the last half hour or not really last half hour, last 15, 20 minutes. Hi, Luke. Thanks for watching. I was getting a little sleepy. So I understand your point of view there. And I was able to watch it a second time the next day, awake, ready. I was like being able to pause and take little notes, and I was able to kind of appreciate it even more. I loved it the first time, but being able to watch it the second time, I picked up on more things and what have you. But anyway, the montage, epic montage of just all the prequel goodness, really catching all of us up on, what we were to expect with this show. And I'm just going to state for the record, for the love of God, if I have to watch Order 66 one more time, I'm going to lose it. Like we see
Give me more. Give me more.
Order 66 from every possible angle. And we've seen it in, I think, 3 different Star Wars things.
Clone Wars, Bad Batch, and this.
Jedi Fallen Order. Fallen Order?
Sorry. I'm not even thinking about video games. I thought you were talking about movies or TV, but yeah, Fallen Order. So 4.
Did you say Book of Boba Fett too?
5.
That's what I'm saying. We've seen so much of it. It's insane.
And actually, totally fine with
comment, this is so on point. It's like the Batman parent scene. Yes, like we get it, right? But I will say, starting off, with predictions. I don't know if this is a hot take. I kind of seen it around in places, but I believe Reva is one of the younglings. Like the first youngling that you see is the little black gal, and I believe
just like you, I watched it 2 times. I watched it when I woke up, and then I had to watch it with Jen last night. So I paid attention this time around. I'm like, yeah, there's a female black youngling there, and I've seen it going around too. It's not a hot take. This is what a lot of people are saying because Maxwell Haddad, friend of the channel, or Haddad, excuse me. He even pointed out, he's like, it makes sense. He wants revenge on the person who created her abuser. Vader is an abuser of the Inquisitors. It makes total logical sense.
Right. But that kind of leads into our first introduction to Reva and the Inquisitors that we've seen in other, Star Wars projects. I love the Grand Inquisitor here. We have a lot more to talk about later on. We'll get to it. But I love Rupert Friend's take on the character. I love that they did the yellow Sith eyes. That just made him so much more of a presence, and even make that live action adaptation that more much stronger. Because I know there were so many complaints, during the trailers that he looked like he had a fat head and just didn't translate. But I thought that it worked great along with his performance. That scene where he's running around, or not really running around, but kind of walking around the saloon, having the conversations about, there's a Jedi in our midst, and the Jedi code is like an itch and all that stuff. I thought all of that was great. But it also was an introduction to Reva, and she has this total plan to sniff out Kenobi and take him down. We don't know why exactly yet. I think these first couple episodes is trying to tell the audience that she wants what she's owed. She said that a couple times. And I think it's easy to see, the surface layer that she just wants to move up in the ranks of the Inquisitors and get some respect, right? Because the Grand Inquisitor is saying that we pulled you from the gutter. You're not one of us. Maybe she wants to kind of one up them. But I think that there's also another layer there too that we don't know yet, that her and Obi-Wan might have a history. And I'm interested how that's explored in the next few episodes.
Oh, me too. This is just great. Okay, so I was gonna try not to this. There's someone on. This is a six episode TV show. It's essentially a movie split up into 6 parts, right? It's a miniseries. So it's not like an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or any other 22 episode show that you're like, you know what, there's 22 1-hour episodes I'm checking out now after 2-3 episodes. There's only 6. So when I go on Facebook or Twitter and I see people going, well, I had hope for Obi-Wan, goodbye Disney. Shut the hell up. It's 2 episodes of 6.
Right.
It is not the full story. Each episode is going to be important in its own way. You need to see how the full story forms first. You're not having to give 22 episodes or 22 hours of your life to this one show. You have to give 4 to 6 once everything's all said and done. So it's not like it's this large investment. And I'm sorry if it's not what you wanted it to be right out the gate, but episode 1 was precisely what I expected from a show like this. I didn't know what the Inciting Incident was going to be, which we'll get to in a little bit. But it was going to be, hey, I'm here. Hey, I'm here to take care of the boy. This, that, and the other. Reluctant to do everything. Inciting Incident happens. Reluctantly agrees to go off-world. And that's what the episode was. That's what I expected from this. And I loved every moment of it because of the character work that Ewan McGregor gave in just this performance in the first episode.
No, I agree with you. This is essentially a movie, a very long movie, and we paused it 30 minutes in. I think that's the best example you can give. And you don't judge a movie after 30 minutes. You have to watch the whole thing and then, think about it, and then you can make your own, opinions on how you felt about the entire product, right? Like you said, we were only 2 episodes in. There is still so much show that we have coming, Wednesday is not that far away, which is very exciting for episode 3. But no, like you said, you just got to let it breathe, right? We've talked ad nauseum on this show about how we love the weekly format where you're able to sit with an episode for a week, process it. This might be the only show I wish that we could binge.
I'll tell you what, definitely missed that weekly format with what Stranger Things was this season, because although I did binge it, I would have loved to do like a weekly show on Stranger Things, but we can't do that because you got to watch it all at once.
Right. But anyway, going back to, you already kind of talked a little bit about Obi-Wan, but we see the Inquisitor's introduction. I love all of that stuff. I love low-key the 4th brother. No one's talking about Sung
Yeah,
Kang. He's
right.
been so good.
The
Like
voice
every time,
modulation. The voice modulation.
every time he's on screen, I love it. Right. So I really hope we see more of him going forward. But yeah, the Inquisitor's introduction, and then we catch up on Obi-Wan and what Obi-Wan is up to. And we spend a lot of time in this first episode with Obi-Wan's just kind of day-to-day routine, right? Like he's working, helping carve up this desert fish thing. It took me the second time watching to even like understand what that was. And it's clearly like, it's like this giant fish, like this giant sand fish that's like dead. And they're basically carving it up.
I was thinking maybe it's like a crate dragon.
No, it's not. It does not look anything like a crate dragon. It looks like a giant sandfish. I think that's probably what it is until Pablo Hidalgo gives it a name. Anyway, no, we're seeing Obi-Wan. He's working at basically a meat processing factory. You know, he works, you know, his 9 to 5. He cuts off a little slice of meat for his Eope. He goes home and has a fun little chat with a Jawa named Tika, which might be my favorite character in these first 2 episodes. Like, shout out to Tika. I loved all of that. It was very funny, and it wasn't like punch you in the face funny. Like it was just low key Star Wars funny that works, right? I know Christian Harloff talks all the time about MCU funny and Star Wars funny and how they don't go together. This felt like Star Wars funny to me. Yes, Matt, do you agree?
No, the line that felt like Star Wars funny to me was, if you're gonna steal my parts, at least steal my parts and sell them back to me. At least clean them first.
Yeah, as a courtesy. I loved all of that. And you see too, Obi-Wan trying to get Luke a toy. Like I love that idea.
Not just a toy for those. No. For those Star Wars fans who aren't paying attention, it's the ship he's flying while he's cleaning C-3PO and R2 with the it is the only
D-16.
Yeah, it's the toy you see him playing with in the original film. That's a nice little Easter egg that they were able to sneak in there, and I loved that.
Right, and we also skipped over. I knew this was going to happen, and it's going to happen again. But Benny Zafty's character was a Jedi on the run, right? So we got to see a little bit of him. Basically, you know, like the Grand Inquisitor said, the Jedi can't help themselves. So he's come across the saloon and wanted to help out, you know, the bartender because he had some bandits, you know, messing up his business. So the Inquisitors run him off, and then we catch up with Obi-Wan. And we see Obi-Wan, he's trying to give Luke this toy, right? Like he's so excited to give Luke the toy, and he does. You see that scene from the trailer where he's just kind of looking over the Lars homestead, you know, seeing what Luke is up to. He drops off the toy like Santa Claus. And then the next day, Owen just throws it at his feet and is like, leave us alone, Ben. Like, we don't need you. I know what you're up to. You're trying to see if he's showing, which I guess means, is Luke using the Force yet, or is he coming into his abilities? And Obi-Wan is steadfast that, you know, we discussed this, and when the time comes, he must be trained, which I think is interesting. What'd you say?
I said Owen's bitch made. Just saying.
No, it's interesting, you know, the comparison between that scene and then the scene where Benny Zafty's Jedi character, I'm trying to remember his name.
They didn't give him a name. He was just...
No, he had a name. He introduces himself to Obi-Wan, but I just don't remember it off the top of my head. But, you know, he's like, Master Obi-Wan, like, I need your help. Like, we need to come back. We need to try to, you know, do the right thing, come back as Jedi. And Obi-Wan's just like, no, man, like, take your lightsaber.
You have the wrong person.
Right. He was playing it off like, I don't know who you're talking about. And then he finally is like, listen, man, take your saber, go bury it in the sand, forget about your life as a Jedi, and move on. So I think it's interesting that he's very steadfast in, you know, the Jedi are gone. We're not going to do this anymore. Yet he still wants to train Luke. I wonder if that's just part of Obi-Wan's character where he still has a little bit of hope left, or what? Well, I don't know. I just find it interesting.
Because one of the lines he says in that moment is, you're going to draw too much attention. I think that he was just trying to say whatever he had to say to keep him quiet.
Because at the end of the day, protecting Luke is what's most important.
Exactly.
And so any Jedi presence is just going to risk Luke being found. So no, I think that tracks. That tracks for me. But then the inciting incident, or at least the beginnings of the inciting incident, we transition to Alderaan of all places. What a surprise that was. And I love this scene so much, where you all know who it is. You're seeing this little girl get dressed up in all these different fabrics and nice clothes, and we're all like, like, oh my god, it's Leia, and then it's not, right? It's a decoy, which I love too. Just callbacks to Padme, but then you see little Leia, little 10-year-old Leia running through the woods because she's just like, I don't care about all that crap. Like, I want to watch ships. Like, I want to sit in my tree and watch the spaceships fly off into the sky. And I love that so much because it says so much about the character by what we already understand, that she's royalty. She wears all these nice fabrics. And so you know who it is immediately, but then it's not her. But you also see the other side of the character, which again mirrors what we know about Luke, where they just want to get out of their homes. Like, they don't want to, she doesn't want to be a senator. Luke doesn't want to be a farm boy. They have other aspirations that are bigger than themselves. And I just love so much about that scene. And then I cannot say enough about the performance of, the little girl playing young Leia. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. I know she was in Bird Box. I believe that was like her first big thing.
MVP,
but there she is. Like,
MVP.
She's so good. Just the mannerisms, the quips. She's so smart and so wise for her age, and that is Leia to a T. And I love also her relationship with her dad, with Bail. Yeah. Shout out to Jimmy Smits coming back, which I feel like is expected at this point. Any Star Wars project in the prequel time,
with
you
Bail
can
or
expect.
Hannah involved. It's like, yeah, just.
Yeah, but no, their scene. Or I guess we can start with her scene with her cousin, where her cousin's just disrespecting the droids and saying you're not a real Organa, and then she just goes for the jugular and was like, you're scared of your dad. You repeat everything that he says because you know that you will never live up to his standards. And it's so good, right? Just like I said, Leia to a T. That's exactly how, the Leia I think in my head would respond in that situation. But then you see, might be my favorite scene from the first episode, believe it or not, but her scene with Bail. I love that scene so much because Bail's talking about, like, I was like you once, where I was looking to the horizon. I did not want to be here anymore. But I found your mom, ended up chasing your mom. And then we settled down and
we got you. And
you can see so much about the relationship. And then that just adds value to the scene in Rogue One, right? Where he's like, I trust her with my life. You're now seeing the beginnings of that relationship. And oh my God, like,
my friend.
Like, I understand this is an Obi-Wan Kenobi show and it's about him, but the amount of stuff we've gotten with Leia in just a little under a couple hours is just adding so much to scenes that we've seen our entire lives, like the original trilogy and in Rogue One. Like, it's just brilliant what they've done so far, and I just cannot imagine what's coming in the next few episodes. But I digress. You have anything to add up until this point?
Yo, the interaction with her cousin was by far one of my favorite parts of the episode. But can we talk about how freaking Flea is in Star Wars?
Yeah, how could I forget that?
It's 3:00 in the morning now at this point, and I'm just like, I'm feeling a little bit drowsy. Is that Flea?
Right.
I was like, oh wait, everybody else is asleep. I should cover my. I'm like, Flea?
The biggest surprise thus far has been Flea in Star Wars. Like, who would have known? Bigger surprise than Leia, to be honest.
Like, Flea. Okay, I'm here for it though.
Right, and he did such a good job, and I believe him as a Star Wars character. Like, it fits.
Well, it's because they did the right thing. They made him a villain.
Right. Yeah. I can't see Flea as a surviving Jedi. That just doesn't track. But anyway, so Reva, like as we said before, clearly has her eyes on Obi-Wan and, getting him out in the open. And so what does she do? She hires Flea and his band of goons to kidnap little Leia. And obviously, Bail finds out, and the first person he contacts is Obi-Wan. And I have a question for you, Matt. Do you think in these 10 years, this is the first time that Obi-Wan has heard from Bail up to this point?
No, because I think they've kept in contact regularly, knowing how that relationship is. Like, because not like all the time, but at least like a checking up on each child here and there.
Mm-hmm. It just seemed to me the way Ewan was in that scene where he hears that thing beeping, he was very, very surprised and like, oh, and the little, their little, communication device was in the bottom of this big box that looked like hadn't been opened in a long time. So I wonder how often, if at all, they've actually been in contact the last 10 years. But either way, Bail and Bria is like, listen, man, Leia's been kidnapped. There's no ransom. We don't know why, but you know how important she is, and you are the only person who knows how important she is. So you need to get up off your lazy butt and go find her. And I love Ewan's performance in that scene where he's just like, I'm not the man I used to be. Like, find someone else.
I love how he's like, isn't there anyone else?
Right?
Anyone.
Yeah. But he knows deep down there is no one else. And I think in that moment, it's not about Luke. And it even talks about that when, Bail shows up on planet to recruit him officially. And he's like, it's not about the boy. It's about you. You failed Anakin, but you got to move on. Like, this is not about Anakin. This is not about Luke. This is about my little girl. And you know how important she is. Right. So I just loved that interaction so much. And I love that was the only thing that would get Obi-Wan off Tatooine. Right. We had talked off and on, on this program about like, what's going to make Obi-Wan leave, because Luke is so important. It's got to be a pretty other important thing for him to get up and leave for a few days. And
didn't think it was going to be Leia.
Leia, of course, that's why. So the episode ends. He walks out into the desert. I don't know how he remembered where he buried his lightsabers, but he found. He's
probably spot. using my headcanon was he, in a sense, because it is his lightsaber. He's so connected to it through the Force that he just.
That's actually, I love it. I love that answer, because in Brotherhood, which we talked about last week, actually it was this week. It was on. We've done a lot of Star Wars shows this week. I'm sorry, but in Brotherhood, there's a scene where Obi-Wan hides his lightsaber because he knows he's about to get captured, and it's in this tall building, like underneath, this thing. And it's far away. But during his little scene where he's, interacting with all these guards and stuff, he can feel the presence. And when he finally decides that he needs it, he summons it and shoots over to him.
So he
was able to feel it. He
thors it. He thors it.
Right. Yeah. So I think I agree with you that there's that connection to the Kyber crystal, right? That's so important in Star Wars lore with Jedi and their lightsabers and the Kyber crystals, that he just felt its presence and was able to track it down. No, I like that answer. But anyway, he gets it and he puts on a new outfit. It's kind of Jedi-like, but not really. It's conspicuous enough to where he wouldn't be pointed out in the crowd, but it can hide his lightsaber. I mean, I love the shot at the end where he like puts the thing in his pocket and you see the lightsaber. Like he's like, all right, I'm back. And the episode ends with him getting on the transport. So yeah, a lot to cover in episode 1. A lot of it is catching up, with Obi-Wan and what he's been up to, introducing new characters like Reva and the Inquisitors, and then giving us a reintroduction to a character that we've loved for 45 years, right? So much Star Wars goodness in this first episode. So Matt, before we transition into episode 2, is there anything at all that I missed? Oh, actually, we did. Benny Zafty's Jedi gets killed, and
we don't see it. He's just hung up as an example in the streets.
Right.
Well, I want to backtrack a little bit of ways, because you didn't even talk. You talked about the interaction Lars had with Obi-Wan. You didn't talk about the one with Reva, though.
Oh shoot! Yes, you're right. That is such a good scene. My goodness. No, yeah, I love Owen in this scene where, and shout out to his name,
Joel Edgerton.
Yeah, Joel Edgerton, who's just a masterclass actor who just so happened to be in Star Wars in 2005 or 2002.
And realistically, it was actually 2000. We just didn't see the movie until 2002.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, before he was the masterclass actor that he is now, he was in Star Wars.
He was cast because he was supposed to be this big up-and-coming actor.
Right, and I mean, I'm so glad he said yes to this project, because he's so good.
See, you got to remember, he was one of the people lobbying for an Obi-Wan movie, because I'd love to go back in that universe, because I didn't really get to do much before, and I'm hoping that Obi-Wan goes just next episode drops Leia off and ends up at Tatooine, and that, because we've seen in the first trailer, we see that one British actress who was in Game of Thrones, and it looks like she's on Tatooine. And Drina Varna, I think her name is.
Indira Varma.
Indira Varma, thank you. And looks like she's back on Tatooine. So I have to assume that this is actually going to be 3 stories that are all interconnected in this short amount of time because of the one inciting incident. And then you're going to have some 2 episodes 3 and 4 recon on what's Obi-Wan's doing. 4 and 5, the finale episodes being those that the Vader showdown and so on and so forth.
No, there's a lot of different directions that this show can go, and I'm not going to pretend like I have a guess because I've been wrong about just about everything. But no, the scene with Owen and Reva is so good because Reva, as we've said, is trying to sniff out really any Jedi, but specifically Obi-Wan, and she points him out in the crowd like, you know, a Jedi, and he's like, no, I don't. And just the look on his face, the way
he's like, Jedi, I think Jedi are scum, vermin. On my farm, we kill vermin. That's
such a good line. That was so good, and he sells it so perfect. And Reva's about to freaking slice him up, and then the fourth brother's like, "Nah, we gotta
enough.
We're moving on." And then the scene with him and Obi-Wan to end that little interaction. He's "Thank you, Owen," and he's like, "I didn't do it for you," and walks off. Like Owen is the goat, man.
Owen is
so good.
Owen's just like, it ain't for you. I'm a G. Bye.
So anyway, yeah, I love that scene. I'm glad you brought it up. But transitioning into episode 2, we show up on the planet.
There's one more thing.
Okay, one more thing.
What Leia says to the flea kidnapper, where she's like, my father's gonna come get me. He'll send an army because that plays into something I'm gonna bring up in episode 2, where we now have Obi-Wan off to save her.
Right. And I'm glad you had that little extra thing because it allowed me time to remember the planet, and that's Daiyu. So yes. Yeah, we arrive on Daiyu. Obi-Wan is back in detective mode as he does so well, and he's just kind of walking around Daiyu. He's got his arms crossed. He's just kind of surveying, trying to figure out what his first move is going to be. And I don't know which happens first, but I'll start here that the little girl, the little drug deal girl, that was Ewan's daughter. I don't know if you knew that, but that was that was his daughter. And that's I remember in the press leading up to the show, he said that he had just filmed a scene with someone really important in his life, and that was that scene with him and his daughter. So I love that. I love that little interaction, and I love too how it's kind of a double entendre there, where she's like, I used to be someone's daughter too. And it's like, yeah, because that's your dad. Like, I loved that. I thought it was really clever. But the second meeting that he has is with the homeless clone trooper. And that it broke me, right? Because, I mean, I'm sure I've talked a lot on this show about how much I love the clones. I think the clones are super important to Star Wars overall. I love the Clone Wars. I love Tamora Morrison's portrayal as the clones in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, but to see a 501st clone just raggedy beard and just dirty, and he's still in his armor, for God's sakes, shaking his little helmet for change so he can get a warm meal, that just broke me. And you can see on Obi-Wan's face that broke him too, because that was his brother in arms for 3 years. Like, I'm sure he fought side by side with that guy, but that guy is just so down on his luck. Like, he probably isn't all there. He doesn't even recognize that that's Obi-Wan. But that little scene just broke me, and I'm so glad they got Tim to come back to do it. I mean, I'm sure he was pleased to do it. He's loved Star Wars. We're going to talk about Celebration in a couple hours, but every time he's on stage, the crowd just loses it, and he's got that energy to him, that Samoa energy, or the Maoan energy.
I want to laugh because my buddy Brian, he's like, for a split second, I thought that was Rex. I'm like,
yeah, I saw on a couple YouTube channels where people were speculating that was Rex, and on earth would they disrespect Rex that way? But we also know that Rex is with Wolf and Gregor right now. So no, that was not Captain Rex. There was just some random, clone trooper who may pop up later on in the show. I mean, we never know anymore what they got planned. So.
But I want to talk about real quick. That was one of the most interesting and beautiful shots that they did, juxtaposing that clone there to the next shot being stormtroopers walking by.
Yeah, it's a good call.
Setting the tone, just really interesting.
Right, and so, Obi-Wan meets this little kid who's like, I could take you to a Jedi. He helps people. And he's like, okay, sure. Let's see what this is about. And we cut to Kumail Nanjiani's character, which we didn't know what he was doing in this show. We knew he was in the show, but we didn't know the role he would play or to what extent. And he's basically playing a con man who's pretending to be Jedi to get, credits from people that are kind of down on their luck. And I think he's a good guy at heart because in the end he does help the mother and her son get off world. But he's like, give me my money, right? So I love how Obi-Wan's just not buying the BS immediately. He's just like, yeah, this guy is just
it's like, oh yeah, can you show me? Yeah, sure. Yeah, with these magnets and remotes. It's like, what? And then you see he gets scared witless, and you're just like, all right, yeah, that is. And I know some people have issues with episode 2. I can understand that to a certain degree, but at the same time, with episode 2, it's honestly just an elongated version of what we saw at the beginning of episode 2, the actual film, when they're in the slums of Coruscant.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's doing what he has to do for information. He's trying to blend in. And I thought that was a very nice touch, because being a Jedi, and we know this through Clone Wars and books, is part detective work, which is what he was doing.
Right. And I love too how Kumail Nanjiani sells the idea that, this is the Empire's ruling. People are desperate for money, for resources. And so people got to get creative. And I love the idea that some con man would pretend to be a Jedi to make money. And I loved that aspect of it. And we see him a little bit later, which we'll get to. But he leads Kenobi into the slums. He's like, all right, because Obi-Wan talks about, like, you're a rat from the gutter. And he's like, all right, I'll show you the gutter since you're looking for this little girl. And so I love the scene. And it's just the connections to, like, Breaking Bad, where, like, Obi-Wan is, like, in this jumpsuit. He's got his mask on and he's looking at all these different drugs, like, trying to figure out a way to, like, make a distraction so that he can find Leia. And I just saw so many, like, Obi-Wan looks like Walter White, memes. I thought that was really funny. But he runs into Flea and his gang. You think he's going to get taken out, but he...
you're skipping some of the coolest part. Okay. Sneaking into the drug slum.
Yes.
Setting off that distraction.
Right.
It's just... And then playing it off like, oh, no, I'm sorry. And then beats the hell out of 2 of Flea's guys just to get tricked into...
And I'm glad you mentioned that. The, his hand-to-hand combat, it looks pretty good, but he's like, I love where he punches the guy and he's just like, ow, because he's not done this in a while. And he's not even used to doing hand-to-hand combat. Even when he was a Jedi, he had a lightsaber in the Force, at his disposal. So yeah, I love that. And he uses the drugs in his pocket that his daughter gave him to, basically it was like a smoke bomb, and then he was able to escape. And he's able to find Leia, and he's like, all right, we got to get out of here, right? And I just love how she's defiant from the jump. She's like, I don't know you, I don't trust you.
Where's the army?
That was such a good line, right?
That's why I was like, you got to mention how she's like, my dad's gonna send an army.
Yeah, but she doesn't understand why he can't send an army, which I think is really important.
Yes.
So everything about Obi-Wan and Leia running through the streets trying to hide from Reva and Flea's gang is just the best, right? Because like I said, she's being defiant every turn. She's like, I don't know you, I don't trust you.
Let me get the green jacket for the girl. Put the gloves down. And the gloves.
And dude, and I love because Obi-Wan is trying to buy Luke a toy and Owen won't let him, so he's gonna instead spoil Leia because he's basically their uncle. They just don't know it.
Right.
And so I love that, where he's just like, all right, fine, you get the gloves too. So yeah, like I said, they're marching around the city trying to hide. And they do have a quiet little moment together where Lola is broken, and Obi-Wan's like, that better not make any noise. And she's like, no, she's broken. He's like, good. But then he takes a moment.
Says she's hurt, because a little kid doesn't say broken. She's hurt.
Right. Yeah, she says that she's hurt, and he's like, good. But then he takes a moment, pauses, he gets on his knee.
Her face.
Yeah, and he's like, what happened to her? And I love that little scene where he's like, no, like, this is a child. This is Anakin's daughter. Like, I need to have more compassion for her. I can't let her know exactly who I am, but I'm going to do my best to try to connect with her, so that she trusts him more. But that didn't work, because he finds the guy that he just beat up, and he has this beacon that's like got Obi-Wan's face on it, because Reva sent out an alert across the city, like, bounty on this guy. Whoever gets this guy is going to get some change.
Bring him in alive. Just bring him in.
And so she sees that, and again, I love how smart she is, because she makes the connection, like, oh, they're after you, and so if I'm around you, yeah, I love that. And so she's like, if I'm around you, then that means I'm in danger. So she's out, she dips, and so Obi-Wan's trying to chase her, and and I love, or actually, love's not the right word. I hate that the people online have been making fun of that scene, because, like, why did it take so long for Obi-Wan to catch
There's
her?
Crowds everywhere.
There's people everywhere. He wants her to trust him. So he's trying to be gentle. He's trying to convince her to come back to him, not like freaking tackle her. Like,
also, her run is adorable, because it's like a little penguin line.
And she's so small, she can just like squeeze her way through different little holes and stuff. So no, I liked that. And he's chasing her around, but ends up getting chased by bounty hunters. A bounty hunter that wasn't Zuckuss. It was a different droid.
Forlom, you mean? It's just...
Or Forlom, yeah, I'm sorry. Different bounty hunter. So yeah, he's fighting bounty hunters. He's fighting, Flea's gang, all while trying to catch up to Leia. And then he's on the rooftop. He's got his blaster. He's shooting some dinosaur-looking bounty hunter. He's shooting the Forlom droid, and Leia's like hopping over different buildings, and then she falls. And she's hanging by this wire, and Obi-Wan's like, no, Leia, and runs over to her. And, he's reaching down trying to grab her, but she falls, and she's like falling in slow-mo. She's like, Ben, help me. And he sticks his hand out, and he has to fight through that wall, because it's pretty clear he has not used the Force in that capacity in probably 10 years. And so he's fighting through.
And a nice little callback to, once again, Leia trying to get an idea of if he's being honest about who he is. When he's like, I'm a Jedi, she's like, okay, make me float.
I did. Yeah, I love that too. Yeah. So yeah, he's fighting through that wall, trying to catch her. And, just in the last second, he's able to catch her and set her down gently. And that trust is earned again. She's like, you are a Jedi. And he's like, yeah, I am. Let's get out of here. So they try to make it to the transport, but
Forlom gets there. The non-Forlom droid gets there, gets murked by Kamel.
Right. But we find out that the transport is locked down by Reva, and
the entire planet's been locked down.
Right. And so Kumail Nanjiani's fake Jedi character. I don't remember anyone's names. It's gonna take me a minute.
It looks like it's gonna be a one-off character, so it's
right. So he's like, listen, I know that we got off on the wrong foot, but there's a cargo transport over there that's unguarded, and it will take you to this other planet. So here's the card to get in. Please trust me. You have no choice. See you later. And so he's actually able to distract Reva while Obi-Wan and Leia try to make it to that transport on time. And then this is where things get interesting. I don't know where to begin, honestly, because there's two huge things that happen. I guess we'll start here where Reva tracks Obi-Wan and Leia down, and I love all the parkour stuff that she's doing across the buildings. I thought that was fantastic. I love the way it was shot, and I liked it a lot. So Reva tracks them down into the kind of cargo hangar, and they're trying to get out. They're hiding, and I love the Obi-Wan. She's just trying to egg him on, and she knows the information that he doesn't know, and she's just like waiting for the right moment. But Leia's able to get out. He's like, here, take this, and if I'm not there on time, you get out of here. I'm gonna try to hold her off. And he's running in between different crates. She's like throwing stuff at him, and she says the key thing: Lord Vader has been looking for you. And it clicks. And Ewan doesn't even have to say anything, but the look on his face, he makes that connection. And then Reva, we can tell, and through 2 episodes, Reva has a strong connection with people's minds and emotions. And she's able to make that connection immediately, like, oh, you didn't know? Shout out to Moses Ingram.
Very similar to Vader in episode 6 with Luke, where it's like, Your sister, you
Yeah.
have a sister.
Yeah. That was, yeah. I'm pretty sure that was very intentional. But I love Moses' performance through that scene. She's like, Anakin Skywalker survived. And the look on Ewan's face where it's just like his face is almost melting.
Mm-hmm.
But the Grand Inquisitor interrupts things. Obi-Wan's able to escape. And then I know the internet is ablaze right now with this. I think it's a non-issue because I don't think they would completely retcon an entire show. But Reva
Right.
stabs the Grand Inquisitor in the chest and says so eloquently, "Who's in the
It
gutter
wasn't
now?"
really the chest. It was like the abdomen.
In
It was
the
like the ab.
belly.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
the
in the belly.
belly.
You can survive that.
So yeah, the internet was ablaze. Like they killed the Grand Inquisitor. Rebels is no longer a thing. People were losing their minds, and I just say,
And clearly,
no.
Rebels is still a thing. We'll get to that.
We'll get to that in an hour or so. But yeah, so Reva stabs the Grand Inquisitor, which I think that scene plays out weird, right?
Yes.
Because there's two options. Option one, Grand Inquisitor's dead, and that opens up a whole can of worms about continuity and canon and all that good stuff. But people watching this show, I would say, I think a fair estimate, 65-70% of people have watched Rebels and know who the Grand Inquisitor is. So we know that he's in Rebels, so we know that he survives. So that scene doesn't have that impact that I think it's supposed to, because we know that he's alive.
Who don't watch Rebels.
Okay, that's fair. I guess that scene was made for the 30% who haven't seen Rebels, right? Maybe that's an unfair percentage because Star Wars is a huge thing, but the cartoons are still very niche, surprisingly, to the grand scope of fandom.
And here, I will say this. Remember, in the Mando Plus panel today, this ties into this. Because of Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, all the shows, the viewing on the movies and television shows has risen. That was per Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau today, which I think is important to note because now the normal fan is discovering these stories, which is kind of, and I know people have criticized Disney and Lucasfilm for doing this. Well, I don't know all about this. Well, the idea is to push you towards watching that stuff, which if that it seems to be working, I guess is the point I'm getting to.
No, you're right. I underestimate how many people have actually watched the animated stuff. But either way, that scene plays out weird because the Grand Inquisitor is not dead. At least I don't think so. So Reva's like, "Ha, gotcha," isn't really a thing unless he's just going to be incapacitated the rest of the show, and we can focus on Reva in maybe the fourth brother and the fourth sister.
I have a feeling Grand Inquisitor is fourth sister.
Okay.
I have a feeling Grand Inquisitor is back by episode 5.
Okay, that's fair. We'll find out. But anyway, the episode ends. This ending, right? Obi-Wan hops on the transport, and Leia is like trying to get his attention, and it's basically like she's underwater, like he's just not listening to her because he's just found out that his brother, who he thought he killed 10 years ago, is alive. And then that transition to Hayden in the back of the tank breathing, and then it cuts to black. Oh boy. Who
was right with their prediction on the end of episode 2?
Let's go to our prediction tracker. I predicted up to this point nothing, and you got right that Vader would be at the end of episode 2. And I think, didn't you say that he wouldn't use his lightsaber in
the first
either of these episodes? So you're 2-0. So shout out.
3 because I guessed Leia too.
You did guess Leia. Yeah.
I'm
all right.
3 for 3. Those were the only 3 predictions I threw out there, and I nailed them all.
And we have to mention this before we get into kind of what we're looking at going forward. But again, Ewan's performance, we're going to say this a million times in these next 4 episodes. Ewan's performance where he just says, Anakin. And then it cuts to Vader in the back to tank. Says everything that you need to know, where he's just like the emotions. He shows it all on his face, where he just cannot believe and understand that Anakin survived that, because he failed twice. He failed to save Anakin, and he failed to kill Darth Vader on Mustafar. So all of that is coming at him at once, on top of the fact that his brother is still alive. And I think it was very intentional that Anakin opens his eyes up in that moment, because I think because they're brothers and they've, their force bond is so strong, I think Obi-Wan coming to the realization that Anakin survived woke
And
Anakin up out of his
to be
meditation.
fair, Reva basically makes it known he's been looking for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because Anakin is Vader, Anakin, whatever you want to call him. Oh, yeah, I know that motherfucker's still alive. He nearly killed me, so he better be alive.
Right. And I think it's interesting too that Reva knows that Anakin is Darth Vader. Like, how many people know that? And how does she know that? I think that's interesting to see if we find out that information and then the rest of the episode. But I don't think I've missed anything. Matt, you usually call me out on what I've missed.
That entire episode, we
did, yeah, beat for beat. Much more happened in the first episode because we needed to set the tone and set the story of where we're going. Episode 2 was a lot of action, and then the big emotional moment at the end. But predictions for Wednesday, I would say that I think that Obi-Wan is going to drop Leia off on Alderaan. I don't see them going on any more adventures together, as much as I would love to see that.
I think that's the end of episode 3.
Okay.
Because remember, there's this transport that they're on is going to take them to someone that Mel Nagiani's character just said, you have to trust them. You need to trust me.
No, that's a good point. That transport isn't going to Tatooine or going to Alderaan. It's going somewhere else. And then they got to get on another transport to head back to Alderaan. So that's interesting. But at the same time, there's no time for filler in 6 episodes of this show. So I don't want an entire episode of them making their way back to Alderaan. I think we need to, again, I don't know what's going to happen. 4 episodes. If each episode is an hour, that's a lot of time to tell the story. But I guess what I'm saying is I expect in a relatively short amount of time, Obi-Wan to drop Leia off on Alderaan. And I think he's going to decide during that time, I need to go to try to save Anakin one more time. And that's going to lead
I think something you're going to have there is also a conversation he has with Bail about Anakin being alive still, and even possibly reaching out to Yoda. I call it within the next 2 episodes, he will be reaching out to Yoda, and maybe this is where Qui-Gon comes in, because you are one with the Force. You are a part of the living Force. How could you not tell me after all these years?
I mean, you've predicted more than me, so you got the credit here. But I've thought the last day or so that Obi-Wan trying to contact Qui-Gon and failing tells me that they've not been in contact in 10 years. That Obi-Wan's still trying to figure this whole thing out, and maybe Qui-Gon is waiting, like he's waiting for the right time. And credit to your prediction, I think finding out that Anakin has survived would be a good time for Qui-Gon to step in and be like, okay, I'm going to catch you up on some things and give you some advice. Or, and what I think is going to happen, that this journey for Obi-Wan is him trusting the Force again, becoming a Jedi in this new world. I think that's his journey to becoming stronger in the Force and trusting the Force to where he would be able to be strong enough to have that communication with Qui-Gon. I think his connection to the Force right now is shattered, and it's going to take him the show to get caught back up. And then by the end, he'll be strong enough to be able to make that connection. But that's what I think. We'll see what happens. But that's what I think in terms of where we're going the next couple episodes. I think he's dropping Leia off, and he's going to go to try to save Anakin. But I'm sure there's going to be so much else that happens because I know some people have said that we've seen probably 80% of the trailers in these first 2 episodes, but I know that there's shots of
a droid that we're missing.
The droid we're missing. We haven't seen O'Shea Jackson Jr. yet, which I know you've said is that droid.
That's my theory. He's that droid.
We've not seen Fortress Inquisitorius on Nur yet. We've not seen Vader yet. I believe that's coming very soon. I hope we spend a little bit of time with Vader in episode 3.
I think that's why we're gonna get this journey episode in the discussion with Bail Organa, because you've now introduced Vader, which if you're bringing in Hayden Christensen, tells me we're gonna get. I think we're gonna end up with a very big balance going forward of the 2 characters, Obi-Wan and Vader.
And I don't want to go on this tangent because we talked about it at length a couple of days ago, but I'm still curious. What are they going to do with Hayden and Vader? Because Vader is James Earl Jones, the voice of James Earl Jones, but we don't know if he's back yet. but it can't be Hayden with his mask off the whole time because then he would die. So I don't know how that's going to work, and it's driving me crazy. I want to know how they did this. So hopefully we will find out Wednesday. I don't want them to waste any more time. We see Hayden as Vader, the very last shot of episode 2. That's leading us into seeing Vader's perspective in episode 3, and hopefully we spend some time with him for a while, because Hayden's the co-lead. This is no secret. It's no secret Vader has a part to play in this show. I'm just curious how much time we will spend with just him, right? Yeah. But we'll see what happens.
With that, that's everything. That's everything.
Wow. We did a lot quicker than I expected.
Well, it's because we also didn't have the third person to talk to.
That's true. Yeah, if Colin was here, we would still be in the first scene of the first episode. Shout out to Colin. He's been so busy this week. My God. But we've been in contact. The first thing he said after the episode, or after both episodes, was just 10 out of 10, and I think that speaks volumes. We know exactly how he feels. We'll get his take on the bigger things hopefully very soon.
Wednesday, hopefully, because I think we're still planning on doing like the last day of Celebration, because it's Bad Batch,
right?
And then our Obi-Wan review. Yeah.
But with that, we are gonna take a break.
Hour break.
We're gonna take an hour break. Maybe an hour. I don't know if Matt has things he needs to get done, but I mean, I'm good. I'm gonna take a little bit of a breather, get something to drink, get a little snack.
Be back at 10 for this.
Okay, yeah. See us in about an hour. We are gonna I feel like part 2 of this whole video is gonna be longer, because my God,
there's so much to talk about. And we got a third person. We got my buddy Pat Bofamonte from the Montyverse coming on to talk with us. Man. Yeah.
So much stuff.
So much.
I'm gonna forget everything, because I forgot so much in this video.
Oh, luckily, I got some visual aids to help make sure we don't forget anything.
Just to tease you guys, real quick, toys, collectibles, Mando, Ahsoka,
Jedi Survivor,
yes, that's my thing. We're gonna talk about that the whole show if it's up to me.
Galaxy Edge updates.
Tales of the Jedi.
Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long one.
So much. And like I love her. Like, yeah, it seems like we got a good showdown. And then right after we're like, yeah, it seems like we're gonna be fine. Just more all this shit.
Dude, so much stuff. But shout out to Luke in the chat. I'm sure we will see you in about an hour. So yeah, we will see you very soon.
Bye.
See you later.